Charlie. Hey, Charlie, how are you?
Good evening,
Good
everybody. How are
evening.
you?
Good. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. We have a five-pronged business model in the Washington, D.C. area. Number one, we are a hard money lender. Uh, Guys, I started like you. I had nothing. We built up into we've moved up the food chain into a hard money lender. That's business number one. Business number two is we fix and flip properties. We fix and flip between 2 and 3 properties a month. We're very, we buy a lot of houses. Right now, we're working on. I've got 5 projects under contract. I've got 2 active projects that are in the MLS, and I've got another 8 or 9 projects that we're working on getting on the market. So that's our second line of business. Our third line of business is that we do tax lien certificate investing. So we buy tax lien certificates in Washington, D.C., PG County and Montgomery County. The PG County auction's coming up on June 22nd. It got delayed. That's our third prong of business. Our fourth line of business is that we have a pretty substantial residential rental portfolio, of which we manage all of our own assets. We haven't given up the management yet for that. We've been building a rental portfolio since about 2005, 2006. And then our fifth line of business is that we have a few commercial rentals as well. So we basically have a 5-pronged business model into the real estate space, and we're pretty much focused in the DMV area. I do have some loans in North Carolina underneath the hard money umbrella. And on the hard money side, we do between 8 and 10 loans a month. And so that's basically what we do.
Gotcha. You got a marvelously diverse business. Let me ask you a question about one element of that when you mentioned the tax liens. Because again, people ask me questions about that. And they usually come down to what's the competition like in that area? Because in some states, a lot of kind of large syndicates have come in and almost tend to lock out the whole thing. Well, what have you found?
Yeah, that happens in Washington, D.C. So in Washington, D.C., it's a 2-pronged model. Number one, there is the auction that's available to everybody. So you do have some mutual funds, not mutual funds, but tax lien funds coming in and buying up the first, I don't know, they might buy up the first 10 or 15 million worth of the tax liens. And then you have the scraps that are left to us guys. And that's what we do. We come in and buy up pretty much the scraps. But the second model that Washington, D.C. does is they do what's called a first come, first serve tax lien model. And what that is those are the tax liens that either didn't get bought up at the auction or some guys committed to buying them and they just fell through. So what they do is they do a first come, first serve, which means we actually pay a line stander to stand on line at the D.C. tax office. And we're usually the first ones online and we have big checks ready to buy. So we know what's gotten through the auction market. So in DC, we do 2-prong approach. We show up at the auction and we know what we're bidding on. And the other thing too, in the DC space is a lot of the big time bidders that buy these tax liens, they're not interested in Northeast or Southeast. They want to get as much Northwest tax liens as possible. And so it leaves a lot of the Northeast, Southeast side available to us. So we buy those as well. I mean, for us, we love
hot markets.
Southeast.
Yeah, hot markets and good rentals in those parts. Awesome. All right, fantastic, Charlie. We'll be talking more about everything shortly. And Charlie, what did you originally have planned, and how have you had to pivot and change?
Wow. Well, we plan to do, on the flip side, same volume we've been doing all these years, about 2 to 3 houses a month.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side, on the loan side, probably between 8 to 10 loans a month. We have blown out any semblance of our numbers. We didn't really plan to add any houses to our rental portfolio, but we've already added 4 because I'm buying them at pretty good cash flows. The cash flow being the price versus the rents. We use a model called 100 times rents in this area. So if I can buy a property, let's say if it's renting for $2,000 a month, if I can buy it for $200,000, in Northern Virginia, we're not even going to think about flipping it. We just sock it away in our rental portfolio.
Also known as the 1% rule, but
Yeah,
it's finally working well around here.
yeah. So that was kind of a nice surprise. The problem on my lending side is that we're blowing out our numbers, but because what's happening is that all of the other hard money lenders are gone or they're taking a lending hiatus. So I'm getting a lot of calls and a lot of deals, and we're having to be very selective because, I've got to be careful on not having enough money to meet the mail. That's a good problem to have, but I've got to keep all my repeating clients happy. I've got a lot of new, really good clients coming, guys that, are Walnut Financial clients that have a lot of cash to put in. I've got a lot of Washington Capital Partner clients coming my way, a lot of loan brokers. So I wouldn't say we're struggling, but it's very hard keeping up with the demand. Now it's a good thing, but it's very hard for us to keep up with the demand on the hard money side. And we're doing a pretty good job at it, but it's, like I said, it's very challenging for us, but I can't complain because, like I said, this year alone, we're going to blow out every single parameter we set at the very beginning of the year. So, anything like Dominic was saying, anything entry level that you're buying is absolutely in the DMV is absolutely flying off the market. There's just not enough inventory to put on the market. Now, the other thing too is it's all about vacant inventory. If you have vacant inventory and you're in a entry level price point, depending upon what area you're in, that thing is flying off the market. Like Dominic says, 3D virtual tours is where it's at. Now, we take it a little step further on that side. All of our properties, of course, that we're selling are vacant. So I have a combo box on every one of those properties. So we let realtors have their clients do self-guided tours because you have certain realtors that are still scared to go face-to-face with their clients. So we've sold a couple houses where realtors have allowed their clients, we've allowed their clients to do self-guided tours. That means ticking the combo box, the construction box, opening the house, doing a self-guided tour, let me know when they lock it up. And a lot of times at that point, the realtor is just nothing but an order taker. So that's been very positive too. So it's been, like I said, it's been a great year for us.
Gotcha. Thanks. Charlie Eisman, what do you see? What mistakes do you see your competition making?
All right. Well, let's take it from the fix and flip space first. I'm seeing my competition buy too high. They're not correctly estimating the renovation budgets. And so that's second mistake number two. A lot of these guys, they might be doing one or two projects here or there, and they don't have access to maybe a stable general contractor. So I'm seeing that. Now, going back to mistake number one, where they're overbuying, which means they're buying too high, what they're doing to compensate for that is they're kind of dumbing down the renovation. So if they're expecting a certain after repair value, they have to do a certain level of renovation to get to that after repair value. But if they're buying it too high and they're kind of short circuiting the renovation process, then how are you going to get that after repair value? So those are the two mistakes I'm seeing on the fix and flip side. On the hard money side, I don't know what to say about my competitors except that we are sort of doing the fruits of their labor of what they've done years ago. What my competitors have done on the hard money side is they became too reliant on Wall Street money. They became too reliant on crowd-funded money. And so their business models was more of a broker-centric business model. Now, what they could do was they could charge cheaper rates and cheaper points, but to give that away, they were actually selling their loans to Wall Street. And so in our space, we are absolutely taking advantage of the fact that these guys built more of a broker business than an actual true hard money asset lending business. So that's sort of what I've seen in the past, 2 years, but then even more recently on the fix and flip space the last 3 or 4 months.
Gotcha. It's interesting because most of what you're saying on both sides of those businesses is, once again, fundamentals. Run the business kind of straight and pure and, do your math. If you're buying too high, that's a problem. And if you're lending kind of on fluffiness instead of actuality, it eventually that didn't last.
Yeah, and the other mistake on the hard money side is that a lot of my competitors didn't do a good job of managing their cash. When you're on the hard money side, you've got to keep cash reserves. And I'm talking, a couple $1 million of cash reserves, because if you overextend your lending environment and then you get into an environment like this, what's happened with a couple of my competitors is they've actually are either about ready to go bankrupt or they're going bankrupt. And I know a couple of them because they've actually offered me their portfolios to buy both on the lending side and some of the portfolios where they've already foreclosed on their distressed assets. And so they want us to buy the whole shebang. So that's how I know. And that's what's going on.
So doing things right, shooting straight and, straight and level, and always focusing on fundamentals when everyone else gets into trouble, that's now opened up quite a bit of opportunity for you.
Yeah, that's correct. But, at the end of the day, though, you've got to treat, especially on the hard money side, if it's a fix and flip investor, you've got to treat those guys, right. Because it's very important that the fix and flip investor make profit, especially for us, because if they don't make profit, they're not coming back to us. They might be mad at us or something might happen. And so we try to do as good a job as possible to help them out in all facets. And so, for example, if they can't make a couple payments because they're running into cash flow issues, well, what we do is we add the late payments onto the end of the loan. We say, hey, look, no worries. And if we still owe them a couple, let's say $30,000, $40,000 on draw schedules, we are still giving their draw schedules no matter what, because we need their projects to be completely finished, renovated on the MLS. So it's just a two-edged approach for us.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie, what's the one skill or the one tip that you've benefited from most in the last year?
That's a great question. I'm going to piggyback off our Visa a little bit, in that I might have even been that lender where she had to go maybe somewhere else. I'm not sure. But for us, it's about the same kind of thing. But let me just rephrase that. We deal with a lot of community banks. I have fix and flip lines all over the place. I have buy and hold lines all over the place. I have 1 or 2 hard money loans all over the place. And the reason I say all over the place is because community banks, when you get to a certain mid-size or even a small size, the community banks are the best place where you can go to get cheaper rates and cheaper terms, but you're going to have to come up with a little bit of cash. So what happens is when a community bank sells itself, because community banks are getting purchased all the time. And what happens is a community bank will get purchased and then their lending appetite might change. And so if you've had a buy and flip line or a fix and flip line and a buy and hold line, they might term that out. They might say, oh, that's not our appetite anymore. We don't want that kind of business anymore. So what the result of that is that you have to have many different, whether it's hard money lenders in your bag, you have to have a lot of community banks in your bag. You have to have a lot of different money sources in your bag. And me, even though I'm a hard money source, Arvises is exactly right. You have to have a bunch of hard money sources in your back pocket, because us as hard money lenders, we have different appetites for different stuff. Like I have certain sweet spots for loans that I love to do. And then there's other loans that, maybe an 8 or 12 unit condo conversion that might take 2 years to do. Honestly, that's not our sweet spot. And so I'll shy away from that. I might shy away from other commercial property loans. And so we have a certain sweet spot, and I do certain loans 9 times out of 10 all day, but there's other loans that I won't do. But like RV said, there's other hard money lenders that will do it. Same thing on the community bank side. And so you just have to have a variation of money sources to keep your business strong.
Gotcha. That makes complete sense. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie, I got you up next. What's been your number one marketing this year?
Well, you guys are going to actually laugh. I'm going to talk through 2. Number 1 is us sponsoring RIAs. I mean, the Traction sponsorship has got to be close to 1. I've got a 1 and a 1A. So sponsoring Traction is pretty high up there for us. But 1A, you guys are going to absolutely laugh about. And I started this about 6-7 years ago. It's a simple Monday morning email to about 300 people. And what that email consists of, it's very basic. The people on the email are either realtors that I've dealt with in the past, maybe 150, and then 150 investors who are actually doing stuff. So I've got a list of about only 300. And I send out a plain text email. And basically what it has in it, it has a food for thought, which I cover a different topic. I try and cover a new topic each week. It has that. It has a market analysis of certain zip codes, the inventory levels, under contracts, actives, that kind of thing, kind of what's going on in a certain marketplace. It also has information about our hard money business. It has information about our events that are coming up. And more importantly, just like anything else, it has every single one of our projects that we either have active in the MLS, under contract, coming soon, and for rent. And people absolutely love it. My partner gave me a hard time when I started. He goes, man, you're not very smart. That is like the cheapest and dumbest way or cheapest and dumbest form of advertising I've ever seen.
That's how it works.
Let me tell you something. This weekly Monday emailer, I'm not kidding, brings us in probably a deal a week. Now, when I say a deal a week, I mean either a deal on the hard money side or a deal on the fix and flip side. Because remember, I've got realtors on there and I've got wholesalers on there as well as other investors who need hard money loans. And so one of the things that we sell to realtors is that we give them the triple header program. So if a realtor has a pocket listing that they know it's a fix and flip that we might like, well, what they do is they come to me. They know that we're going to be a pretty quick cash buyer. They get the listing commission of the pocket listing that they have. They get the sale listing of us being the buyer. And then when we're done fixing and flip it, we just give it to that realtor to list it, even though we're licensed realtors. So the triple header program is very, very powerful. So I guess I got a bunch of different marketing, but those are probably my top, I guess, 3.
I like that. And Charlie, I like the old school. I think the old school, the simplicity is usually always better than anything complex. You could argue that simplicity is actually on the other side of complexity, and it's your consistency that's working out.
That's what it is. And I totally agree with RVs. I mean, you can look at me. I got a few gray hairs. We're totally old school. I mean, I do have some social media marketing, but I just do that just to stay with the times. But honestly, meet and greet people at RIAs, old school, talking to people on the phone all the time. You know, I would rather talk to somebody on the phone than email them, because I just think, like RVs is saying, the number one way to be successful in this business, and there will never be a replication, is relationship building. It's all about relationships. And we've got 20 years of relationships. And to us, that's what it's all about. It's about that old school marketing and building relationships. And there is no
substitute for that.
No substitute for it. Yep.
So touch base with them via email, talk to them on the phone when you can, and your social media is
compliments. It's a complimentary.
Okay. Not totally irrelevant, but not the main source either.
That's right.
Gotcha. That works. Charlie Eisman, you're up next. What are your parting words for the group?
My parting words are perseverance. This is a great business. I can't think of another better business, but what you have to understand, though, is that it's all about marketing. It's all about education. So if you don't have deal flow, then you need to spend all your time marketing and being educated. Now, if you have a lot of education, then you need to spend all your time marketing. And so as you spend more and more time on the marketing and education side, as your deal wheel starts to flow, then you'll be able to spend a little bit more time on your deals. And then eventually what's going to end up happening is that your deals are going to be, you're going to spend the most of your time actually working on the deals. And then you won't spend as much time marketing or getting educated. But you always, if you don't have any deal flow, guys, you've got to spend all your time marketing. Figure out free ways of marketing. If you don't have any money, you know, drive for dollars. There's this thing called the hidden market. Tony Young's Tom Zeeb referred everybody to came here and talked about this thing called the hidden market. Guys, drive for dollars. You know, talk to people like Dominic says, 20 contacts a day. If you can't do 20, hell, start with 3. But it's all about marketing. Marketing, education will lead to deal flow. And as you spend more time on deals, you obviously can't spend as much time on education and marketing, but at least now it's all about marketing and education.
Awesome. Wise words, Charlie. Yeah, we got to get you moving and then keep you in motion. It's fantastic. Thank you for your participation tonight, Charlie. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.